Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, February 18th, 2022, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. We're continuing our coverage, obviously, of the ongoing battlefield coverage. Most of the fighting now taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia is now actually taking place inside of the Oromia region. Again, a lot of this is not being reported by mainstream media. Obviously, the media has their eyes and ears elsewhere, and they've quite frankly have done that throughout this conflict with very limited coverage of what is actually happening. Right now, the Oromo Liberation Army has made significant gains in the Oromia region. Large areas of Oromia are now controlled by the Oromo Liberation Army, to include the main highway running from Kenya up to Addis Ababa. The actual border crossing is not under the control of the OLA, but further north, the main highway that leads up to Addis Ababa, also known as Finfinne, by the Oromo people, is under the control of the Oromo Liberation Army. So what has led to this? What has led to the OLA having the ability to control large swaths of the former state of Ethiopia, especially large areas of the Oromia region? Well, the answer to that is relatively simple. The ensuing war that took place, in which we saw the temporary occupation of the Tigray region, and then we observed the eviction of those forces of the Abiy loyalist formations from the Tigray region, and then the ensuing invasion by the Tigrayan Defense Forces into the Amhara region, seizing large chunks of the Amhara region, including several major towns and cities. But at the same time, the Abiy loyalist formations, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, took incredibly large casualties, not just in manpower, in terms of the degrading the strength of fighting units, and quite frankly, at times completely destroying fighting units of the ENDF. But leadership also took a tremendous hit as well. And we have seen repeatedly that numerous company, battalion, even brigade commanders were either taken prisoner and still remain prisoner, or were KIA'd or seriously wounded in the ensuing battles that took place in the Amhara region. And a lot is not being talked about of just the state that the ENDF is currently in right now, post high intensity warfare in the Tigray region, and obviously the fighting that took place in the Amhara region. The casualties again were incredibly immense. Some figures as high as 100,000 Ethiopian National Defense Forces and militia forces were either killed or wounded in the ensuing war that took place both in the Tigray region and the Amhara region as well. And right up to the start of the conflict, if you look at the total manpower of the ENDF, you were probably looking at a force of around 160,000 personnel, quite possibly in that 150 to 160 range, not to exceed 200,000. It eventually started to recruit and gain some more strength, but the losses that the ENDF took in the ensuing conflict, especially in the Tigray region, once they started to retreat from the Tigray region, and then the ensuing battles that took place as the TDF continued to drive south into the Amhara region. And then finally, when the TDF were in control of areas just north of Dessie and Kombolcha, we saw that attempted offensive by the ENDF, which then resulted in just incredibly high losses by the ENDF. And then we saw the counteroffensive by the TDF, again, which encircled large forces of the ENDF, the Abiy loyalists, and destroyed a lot of these forces. And eventually, as we know, the TDF took control of Desek and Balcha and moved all the way towards Shia Robit and Debre Burhan at one point. So again, just monolithic losses, which have then allowed the Oromo Liberation Army to make these great advances that we're seeing right now. Even today, we've heard reports that there had been talk that the ENDF was quite possibly looking at making new operations against the TDF. That is just a complete farce at this point. The ENDF, the Abiy loyalist formations, are simply in no state of affairs to be launching an offensive against the TDF at this moment. They're barely able to hold on against the Oromo Liberation Army at this point. And, a lot of that's not being reported or talked about, but the situation is incredibly dire right now for the Abiy loyalist formations, especially in the western Oromia region. There's a lot of these areas where the ENDF and the federal police cannot even simply travel. They just don't have the force construct and the type of forces and the size of forces that are needed to operate in some of these areas. Given the state of affairs that the ENDF is currently in terms of just being just utterly decimated in some of these other engagements with the Tigrayan Defense Forces that have occurred. So I wanted to talk about that. And again, we are seeing this continued, almost a reversed anaconda strategy by the OLA, which appears to be attempting to slowly and quite possibly look to strangle Addis Ababa itself. And we could see at a certain point in time where where Addis Ababa, also known as Fenfene, is completely encircled and cut off from the rest of other areas of Ethiopia by the Oromo Liberation Army as they continue to advance and take towns and villages and especially some of these arterial road networks inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And right now, obviously, we can confirm that the OLA has prevented movement of trade and commerce from Kenya into the former state of Ethiopia. They continue to operate in the south along the border just north of the Kenyan border. And those operations, in conjunction with the operations in Western Oromia, are having a serious impact on the Abiy loyalists. But again, just not being talked about, and it's just not in the media's attention right now. But obviously, it is greatly affecting the Prosperity Party and the what is left of the ENDF. So we'll continue to monitor and report with more to come later. Have a good day, everybody.